see you're all connecting. I hope that you also received a notification. We're starting recording this session. Welcome. Feel free to turn on your camera and join us. And if you wish to say hello to us, we're also open. So welcome at the first PARSEC training after the summer break. It's almost like starting a new academic year. So welcome everyone. We'll be slowly starting as others are still connecting. And today, as you can see at my screen, we will be discussing investment as such. So the process, the types of it, the structures, and our speakers will also give us some guidance on that. But starting with all the technicalities, as I mentioned, feel free to use your camera. It's a meeting setting. We would like to see you to have more meeting vibes. So please feel encouraged to turn it on. Keep your mics muted at the moment. We will have a Q&A session. So if there is something important you would like to say, we'll give you the floor then. During the presentation, feel free to add your comments and questions to the chat, which you can see. And of course, as usually, I invite you to share the fact that you're here with us on social media. And just a remark, it's never enough to repeat that the meeting is being recorded. So if you have anything against you being visible there, turn off your camera or yeah, just stay quiet. I wouldn't like you to leave the meeting, but just to keep you informed about that. So for those of you who are new to our training or are just passing by and exploring our trainings, we're meeting today and we're organizing these webinars as a part of PARSEC Accelerator. And currently with PARSEC Accelerator, through our open calls, we selected 15 best teams who we are working with currently. And we're working with them for already a year. And in total, they represent 33 companies from 16 different countries. And they're developing new Earth observation-based solutions for food, energy, and environment sectors. So exactly with them, with the 15 teams, whom maybe some of you know, and some of you are here today with us, welcome. We are identifying what is needed for European SMEs to develop, to conquer new markets, and what is actually the support they need from such programs like PARSEC. So that's why we identified that investment, seeking for funding and capital, is one of the most difficult parts. So that's why we're meeting today with our speakers from Savile Capital. And with us today, we have Roberto de la Cruz and Fernando Ibáñez, who will take the floor and guide you through the topic today. So, gentlemen, welcome. And I'm stopping my screen and you can take over the floor. Roberto, we cannot hear you because I can see that you're starting your presentation. We can see your presentation, yeah. And now you're here.
Yeah. Okay. I try. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
What happened here? I can pass forward. Okay. Thanks for first of all, thanks to PARSEC for the opportunity to present you to participate in the webinar. We have divided the webinar in two parts. First is to understand the steps and the structures and the types of financing for people who is raising money for projects and startups. And the other is in the case of startups that are interested to move to the public, to an IPO, which will be done by Fernando. Right. What happened here? Just so wait a second. I'm trying to pass the. Okay. In terms of raising finance, one of the most important things is to understand the actual situation of the project or the startup. To have a framework, for example, if we take the technology readiness levels, TRL, which we developed by the Space Agency, it's something like, say that from step 1, TRL1 up to TRL9. The TRL1, which we something like you have the idea with some colleagues to do something, right? And TRL9, it's equal to the product is in the market and is generating cash flow. So depending on the point of the project or the startup, the funding sources will be very, very different at the moment. So first of all, you have to understand what's the point of your company. If in a very beginning, you have, for example, transferring technology from a university to the market, or if you have a minimum prototype and you are in the market and you are generating some sales. This is the first thing that will be positioning you in terms of what could be the sources to raise money. Okay, if we take the standard situation of a company, from the research to the investment, we can identify two main areas. One, if one area is basically covered by the public finance, and the other area is basically covered by the private finance. There are some parts that could be both sources, public and private. The public finance is more focused on in terms of projects that come from technology transfer. The idea is to transfer the knowledge from the universities to the market. And this is very interesting for the public finance bodies. And the private finances are more interested to invest in companies that are more focused to the market. Then you have passed all the previous part to check, to prove the technology, etc. So as we talked at the beginning, it's very important to understand what's the vision of every company in terms of move to the market to raise money. The normal path or the habitual path is, as all you probably knows from the beginning, to have the idea, to make a prototype, to check if the prototype. Normally, the first phase will be covered basically for the 3 F's: friends, fools, and family. Prior to be prepared for an investor, a professional investor. In these terms, it's very, very important to understand what's the focus of the public funding. The public funding are more focused on projects that generate IP, or focused on projects that create a new process to do something, or to create a new material, or something like that, more than projects based on B2C or more transactional businesses. Okay, normally there are two moments at the life or the stage of a startup. The first valley of death is at the moment of seed capital, as explained previously. This is normally funded by the entrepreneurs and the most people that are near them. Some business angels that could be interested on the idea, and could be a little bit of VC funds. In this part appears also the public finance, who basically funds research and development ideas. After you have another, if the company moves forward and generates sales and the technology is right, there are the second valley of death, which is between the break-even and to raise funds for the next development. In this part, the private funding is the most VC funds, and private equity or venture capital structures. After that, as will be explained, Fernando, it's the answer to an IPO for the companies with a demonstrated business case, a strong cash flow generation, etc. Okay, in terms of a structure, we can find basically two. One, the first is equity, and the other is debt. Equity is the normal way to fund in the seed capital and the beginning of the companies, and depending on the evolution, the companies could raise debt. In terms of debt, we can find quasi equity, which is an equity loan or a convertible loan that is structured as a loan, but when the lender will convert the loan in equity depending on some issues or some milestones defined by the management team. Once the company moves forward and demonstrates that the business is strong and generates cash, could move to a senior loan or subordinated loan, which is a structure classic or plain vanilla for the industrial companies. Sometimes there are people that understand that inequity could be a preferred equity. Preferred equity is basically a structure where the investor has economic rights, but not political rights. Is to say, it's normally a yield for the preferred equity, but they has not the possibility to participate in a board of directors or in the management of the companies. In terms of lenders, we can find from the family, funds, and etc. to banks. In banks, we can find the commercial banks, the normal banks that we can think in every country. Could be, or it's appearing a banks more focused or with a part more focused to fund startups. This is basically due because the banks understand that the technology companies is the new players, and they try to understand how to finance these companies without the typical structure in an industrial company in terms of guarantees. Other potential funder is the public agencies. Public agencies could be in terms of regional agencies, national, even international. In case of Europe, there are public agencies that operate in every region, and other that could be under the umbrella of the European Commission. Other sources could be the crowdfunding or crowd lending, both to equity or to debt. Normally are platforms from other technological companies in the market. The other normal source is the venture capital. Venture capital funds we can find from seed capital, Series A, Series B, focused on biotech, technology, deep, etc. Depending on every business model, we can find some founders interested or not. Now it's appearing the venture debt funds. These investors are interested to finance startups or technological companies with debt. The main difference is that these funders, these lenders understand how it's the metrics or the business cases of a startup. Basically, they understand that you will be losing money for the first 3-4 years until generate cash flow, and normally a bank doesn't like to put money in a company that are losing cash every year. And the last model that we can find is the revenue-based finance. This is a model which is more focused to finance business models of companies that has a B2C model or software as a service, or something that has a predictable cash flow. Main difference is that basically the repayment is with a part of the revenue. It's say the loan is structured as part of cash, and once the company is selling part of the sales of the revenue, it's to repay the investment of the finance. These models is based on data. The startup has validated info. For example, it has payments with credit cards, transfer to pay suppliers, etc. And the lender analyzes the metrics and the information to provide the finance. There's no collateral required, and the cost is negotiated between the both parts. So in terms of show you an example, for example, in this case, working for a medical devices company who has developed a technological platform. From our side, we provide this Spanish company, and we say, okay, you have, in terms of public finance, you have these instruments from, in the case of the Spain, it's a regional in terms of every regional community in Spain, Valencia, Catalonia, País Vasco, Madrid. The other, which is public finance in terms of national coverage, okay, ENISA, which is lenders of debt and equity, and research and development funding. There are other examples of venture capital national in Spain, and there are another venture capital international focused on medical devices. So this is an example that you can find depending on your project, your technology, and your situation. From regional public finance, national public finance, venture capital national coverage, or venture capital international coverage, specialized on your model or your business. What could be the main issues to be considered in case of a company which could be interested to get finance? So there are some issues that could be interesting that the startups has in mind. From the vision of a public funder, the process is slow. Normally, the public financiers are thinking in terms of you have to be prepared to pass a slow process. In these cases, normally the applications could be by call. Is to say, it's not open every time, 24 hours, 7 days by week, 37 days by year. There are open some calls, and you have to be prepared to move forward in this moment. Normally, the public public finance has subject to budget disposal from every state or every government. So depending on the budget disposal, they can have more funds to startups or not. The process normally is bureaucratic. You have to be prepared to prepare a lot of papers, a lot of documentation, a lot of questions. In some cases, this could involve some resources. It's to say, could be that a public finance required that you have your annual accounts audited, or that you have a technical report from an independent part that validate your technology, or something like that. Normally, they are not involved in the management of the company. They provide the funds. If you take all the tips of the call, they send you the cash, and it's not involved on the management and the evolution of the company. Normally, the public finance is more focused on the IP, on the technology impact, etc., versus to the management team. Is to say, they are not interested to understand deeply the management team or the team of the startup. They are more interested to understand that the technology that you are creating or the impact that you could have on the society with your startup. And the startup businesses has to fit on the call. Is to say, you have to adapt probably your model, your business model, to the call if you want to apply to determine financing. Usually, the public finance needs a detailed business plan, including financial projections, basically, and profit and loss and balance sheet and cash flow for the next 5-10 years, depending on the term that you are looking for. It's mandatory that you complete any necessary form that they need. That they will be different depending of any financial institution. So you have to adapt to the requirements of the public finance in every case. And as explained, these guys are more focused to product or process-based companies, biotech, new materials, new processes, software, hardware, than digital startup more focused on projects. From the side of the private finance, they have a fast track. Is to say, it's very, very fast to understand. You check and you feed the interest of a private investor. Once they are operating in the market, the money is always on. It's not depending on a call. It's depending on the situation of the fund availability in every moment. It's not bureaucratic in terms of apply. It's very simple. It's the classical business case or investor's deck, but the structure of the investment is complex. It's complex in terms that normally the process requires a letter of intent where the investor shows the most important issues to the investment. They will require an SPA agreement or shareholders agreement, also different agreements to cover his interest. One of the most important differences is they need the management of the startup needs to dedicate time to raise funds. Why? Because the private, the venture capital, the business angels, etc., want to meet the teams, to show to understand the technology, to see to understand more your business model, and this requires a dedication from your side. The most important difference is that in the case of the private finance, they are very, very interested to understand the composition of the people, the management team or the team that will be creating the startup, more even in some cases than the technology or the vision of the market. They want to understand that the team where they invest are capable to move forward and to execute the business plan. The private investor normally required to be involved in the management of the company, basically under his participation in the board of directors of the company. It's the other main difference with the public finance. And they are more focused to understand the problem to solve, the market size, and the cash generators than to the impact of the technology in the society. In this case, you have to be focused on how your company generates cash. Is to say the problem, your solution, size of the market, and the cash generators. This is the 4 pillars for a private investor. Management team are relevant. You have to take complementary capabilities, ideally a mix of entrepreneurs versus seniors team. This is very interesting for the private investors. Not always this could be possible, but one very interesting tip is to try to attract senior people to your startup in the board of directors, offering better price to invest or something that could fit with your project. For the private finance, it's very important to understand the funding milestones. Is to say what's your burning cash and what's your idea to raise fund in the next milestone. More debt, investment round, maybe M&A, be interested to merge with another company, sell the company, to understand the vision of your project in the future. And now it's very difficult to raise money through just a PowerPoint. Normally they need a minimum vehicle private need, something that they can see that your technology, your business model is on the market and moves forward right. At this point, I pass to Fernando.
Okay, Roberto, thank you for your excellent presentation. It's kind of Bible for any entrepreneur in Europe or in the world, I would say. And thank you as well to PARSEC and AVAESEN for inviting me to join and participate in this webinar. I'm going to focus on the stock market and the IPOs that could seem at first like the big unknown or the great beyond for many entrepreneurs, because of course when you start a project from scratch and you start to work and to notice how difficult it is to raise funds, of course the stock market seems to be the last frontier, another league, another planet. So for all the people who think like that, we have bad news, but some very good news. Of course, the bad news are that the stock markets are not for everyone. To access the stock markets, a company must meet some strict requirements, must have a certain amount of revenues, and of course certain size. But the good news for a start is that the stock markets are growing, are developing towards the SME or the small and medium companies in Europe. Of course, when we start a company, a startup, we've seen all these TV series like Startups, and we can see these American entrepreneurs that from the start they are thinking in arriving to the stock markets. That's not so in Europe, and there's some cultural issues that we all have with the stock markets, and that's the reason why the stock markets in Europe are really small compared to the US markets. But as I was saying before, the stock markets in Europe, as we will see in a minute, are developing new structures and new lines to connect with the startups and with the young entrepreneurs to access these new funds. So the main question that we must pose to ourselves at first, can you go backwards, Roberto, because I was starting. Okay, thank you. Is why go public? Why transform our company in a listed company? Why to access to the stock markets? And we have a lot of reasons. We have here only 6, but are really important. And I think that you will join me thinking of these are reasons that can serve for the stock market, but as well for developing our company. First, of course, to raise cash. When you arrive to the stock markets, you are becoming another thing. Your company is in another league. you are talking to different investors, different sides of investors. So you will not ever have to, and if you let me the expression, beg for finance. You are just a mature company, and you have these professional investors that if you are doing things really well and you're growing, you will have at your hand all this finance. So first, you will have at your reach all this new financing really easy. Second, the stock market had all this glamour still, so visibility and prestige. Any listed company no more has to answer questions like if you are under an audit, if you are a solid company, but because if you are not, you cannot be a listed company. So it's assumed that you are a mature company and you are a grown company. Third, of course, you are on the radar, you are on the list of the investors, and it's easier to be bought at or participate in an acquisition from a bigger company. Four, and really important, is to develop this engagement for your employees. Of course, our employees will be proud to work and to be part of a company that is listed, and this is a company with a big reputation. Five, really important, we've been through that with the Roberto presentation. Of course, our companies have no liquidity because are private companies, and our investors, in the end, they will value and they will look for an exit of our company, and the stock markets is the perfect solution for that. And in the end, with these six reasons, there's a lot of financing opportunities that we can develop. As Roberto was saying before, we have access to the bonds emissions, we have access to different conditions, financials with banks, because we are a different company. If you can pass, please, Roberto. On the next, we can see this graph where we can see this evolution, as we were talking before. When a company arrives to an IPO, it's in the perfect mix of the revenue and valuation and the decreasing of the financial risk. That's the reason why it's so easy to access new financing with banks or with private investors. So we left behind us all our founders, family, friends, pre-IPO, all this valley of death that Roberto was talking before, and we face a different era of our companies with a different, as you can see, products, financial products, and opportunities to develop our company. In the next, Roberto, please. Thank you. What's the key milestone, the important thing really to access the stock markets? Because of course there's a lot of requirements of capital and financing and tax, everything, and transparency basically. But this serves as well for look for financing in any source, is to have a really solid and attractive equity story. An equity story is the main thing that our investors are going to ask for, and the stock markets as well. And we have to develop and really build this from scratch to arrive to a really solid and attractive story. And here we have these 7 points that we have underlined that we think really compelling equity story must have. First, of course, is narrative. With these favorable prospects, the future must be attractive, must be appealing. We must really convince our investors that our company is going to grow and is going to take advantage of this big opportunity that we are creating in a really large market. But of course, this serves, of course, you have, you know that already. for create your startups. Second, the business plan, basic thing to develop to arrive to the stock markets. Three, if we can have this strong brand recognition, or we must have a really strong competitive advantage of our company to secure this brilliant future. Four, we arrive to the finance and to the numbers. We need this really financing team solid and with experience and a track record really solid. Five, if we can, not always possible with a startup that has maybe 2 or 3 years, this possibility trend of historical financial results. And with this, I think one of the most important things, and Roberto was saying before, is this management team that must be experienced with this track record, and if it's possible with this advising committee or really senior profiles that can lead us to achieve our business plan. And of course, 7 is these tailwinds, these trends, big trends that, of course, you all know that are really important for convincing these investors. I would say an 8 that is not here, but it's really recent. But as well, as long as I've seen your projects, I think that it's in the most of them is the sustainability. Sustainability or the ESG criteria are really basic now, not only for the stock markets, but to look for any kind of financing, because sustainability is really being supported by the Commission, European Commission, and all public money and private money are now around this concept. So our company, our project must prove that has a really positive impact in the environment and the social trends, and of course a really transparent and strong government. I don't know, Salome, if you want me to answer your question or just to wait until the end of
at the end. Okay. I'm trying to push people to launch questions also.
Okay. Well, I'll be brief. So next one, Roberto, please. So the good news as when we think of the stock market, of course, we think of companies as Facebook, Microsoft, I don't know, Telefonica, Deutsche Bank, and of course, those companies are the leading companies in the world, and all of them are in the stock market. But we're talking about the Champions League. Of course, there are different leagues, and the stock markets are creating new leagues tailor-made for these new companies, for these ESME companies in Europe. So we have here 3 examples. First, in Euronext. Euronext is the stock market, the union of the Belgium, Netherlands, and France stock markets, as the biggest stock market in Europe. And of course has this main market for the big companies, but of course also have these SME growth markets that become in Europe in 2017, and are created for these new companies, these small companies or medium companies that presumably will grow in a more accelerated way. So we have this market designed for us, for our companies. There are a lot of companies, really small companies, listed in this kind of markets, and even better news for all startups across Europe is that all these markets have normally a pre-IPO program. What's a pre-IPO program? Is not to access to the markets yet, but it's a training program that usually is about a year, and our company can apply for, and our company will have all this training, practical and theoretical, to learn what to be a listed company is and what means that transformation for a company. So in the case of Euronext, we have this tech share that is developed in 8 countries. Belgium, Netherlands, France, Italy, Germany, Portugal, Spain, and Switzerland. So it's not compelling to be a French company or a Belgian company or a company from Netherlands. We can be a Portugal company or a German company, and we can access to this program and to the next to this market. In Germany, we have the Deutsche Börse has this second market. It's called Scale for medium companies, and the Deutsche Börse has this training services around Scale. And in Spain, now the Spanish stock market is Swiss owned from last year. We have this BME growth, not very imaginative with the names here. There's this second market that is about 50 companies listed, and they are preparing for the big leap, the next leap to the bigger markets. And in Spain, we have this Entorno Premercado, this pre-IPO program. Now are 17 companies that are training to access to the BME growth in the next 2 or 3 years. And in the end, the last slide, Roberto, please. So this is a Euronext sample. We think of the Paris stock market as a whole, but as you can see, has these 4 layers, these 4 different markets. Of course, from on your right, the Euronext for large and mid-cap companies, the biggest companies in Europe are listed on Paris or London usually, or Berlin or Frankfurt, sorry. But we have this second market, the Euronext growth, and even below this second market, we have the Euronext Access and the Euronext Access Plus that have this simplified access, low requirement, low capital needs for really small companies, and are willing to welcome all these companies in Europe, and are selecting about 150 companies around Europe every year to this tech share training program, and to access next year to these second markets, especially designed for the AVAESEN. So that's it. I hope that not really boring, and we are open to your questions. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Fernando, and thank you very much, Roberto. Yes, so thank you that you're still staying with us. We have a few questions. Let's maybe start with the one coming from Ana Cristina. And actually, because this is what you recently mentioned in your presentation, Fernando, about the IPO programs. So what are the requirements, prerequisites for applying to an IPO program?
Okay.
This is a question coming from a German startup. So if you know about any differences from different programs, please share.
Yeah, of course, there are different requirements for every stock market. In the case of the German stock market, you can, of course, be a German listed company in the Deutsche Börse, but you can as well be a listed company in Euronext, because Euronext has this pre-IPO program. So really, we have like 2 different options. In the case of Euronext, to access to this pre-IPO program is in fact Euronext who selects the companies across Europe. So they invite you to form part of this pre-IPO program. In the case of Spain, it's different. You can apply for the Entorno Premercado, and the Entorno Premercado, the Spanish stock market, will decide if you can access to this. And the requirements in Spain that are similar in the rest of Europe are basically that you have a really strong business plan. That's not that important that you have a strong numbers or really capital, or you are well financed, that you have money, or even that you have a product that is market proof. But the really important thing is that this business plan, that you can prove that your company has a really brilliant future, and you have this professional team that is backing all these projects. That's the main thing. I said the most important thing.
Okay, thank you very much, Fernando. Anna, you want to follow up with a question? Please feel free.
Thank you. First of all, I really appreciate now this panel, especially also with Mr. Roberto de la Cruz and now with Fernando Ibáñez. My company is part of one of the 15 the consortium selected for the PARSEC. And we are now in the TRL 8. We are running a pilot, and we are going to start to scale up in our first market. So, and I'm really interested in this, the second step of my company to go to the stock markets. And as I told you, Diptron is a German company. And as you, Fernando explained, for me, you've understood the two programs for the German board. I could not get the information, but the Euronext must be selected. Yeah, that's it. So, yeah. But we needed to be, we are a startup, we are not so, of course, our visibility is starting. They don't know us yet. So how is going to be this selection? It's a little trick. So my second question is, for the Deutsche Börse program, do you have any information how we also they are going to select, or what is do you have more information about this?
Okay. So we must distinguish between the market and the pre-IPO program. Okay, so as we saw in the slide, we have up the second markets that we will access hopefully, and below the products. So in the case of Euronext, the Paris Bourse, the Paris stock market, yeah, they select the companies. What are the criteria? I don't know. Okay. But I suggest you to be in contact with them, because they are now selecting the companies for the next program that will start in October, November, okay? And they will select companies from Germany, from Spain, from Portugal, from all these 8 countries. I don't know the criteria. I may contact you with the right people for do that, okay? For maybe introduce your company and be one of the candidates. But we are official partners of Euronext in the sustainability side, and we don't know the criteria because that is secret, okay? But I think that a good thing to do is to contact with them and to introduce your company and to show your interest to be selected for this next program. Okay. In the German side, on the German side, as long as I know, there's not a training program, but the Deutsche Börse or this second market scale has certain services for these ESME companies. So that would be a really good thing to do to look for, or to Google it, to look in internet what are these services, and to contact them for the requirements to access to this scale program. As far as I know, it's easier to become a Euronext selected company than to access to a scale to the German market from, out of the blue.
So Euronext is more is general for all Europe, that this go to this. That's it.
Yeah, the stock markets are competitive between them. So now London is trying to get more market from the biggest companies or the best companies in Europe to be listed in London. and Paris do the same, and Frankfurt do the same. So we have to forget this vision of the stock markets as a public thing or a, I don't know, institution. They are private companies. They need to grow. They need to get the best companies. So they are interested in us, in our companies, but they select only the good ones or the better ones, the better candidates. So in fact, when we talk to the markets, we must, you know, give our, to put in front our value to be attractive for them. And once we are inside the market, everything is easier. The difficult thing really is to access. So that's why there's these pre-IPO programs, or even in Spain, we founded this program with the stock markets personally to help all the Spanish startups to ride to the market. So Anna, maybe you have my email there. We can be in contact after, and I will do some tips and contacts to, if you are really interested, or even some, I don't know, some advice for your company to start in this role. Okay. Okay.
Thank you very much, Fernando.
Great, thank you very much. So it's good to ask questions because we're getting more than just answers. And we have a second question coming from Benoit. What type of funding is typically pursued by downstream space startups working with Earth observation? Are there examples of Earth observation application builders who went public? Does the Earth observation sector ring a bell, or maybe anything more in the space technology?
Yeah, of course. There's a lot. There's a really big, I would say, starting industry in Europe with these space startups. The difficult with these companies is that it's kind of go or no go. No, usually the technology or works and it's a big success, or it doesn't work, it's a disaster. I don't know which company are we talking about, but of course there's a really growing sector, a really attractive. I kind of think of as a startup that is listed in Europe, but maybe if you let me some days, I'm sure I can find a company that are listed sure in France, in the Euronext, and maybe in other companies. There's a lot of companies that are because usually it's a really expensive technology and they require a lot of funds through a really long term. So the stock markets are really suitable for them because it's really easy to tap to access to these new capital rounds to finance this big growth. So I'm sure that there are some examples in Europe. My email is at the end of the Roberto's email is at the end of the presentation that I'm sure that will be distributed to
we can share that, of course.
Just been right. In terms of an example, we work with an engineering company focused on space, and basically we see that in Spain the value of debt for this company is between TRL 4 up to TRL 6, because from TRL 6 you can fund 100% of with the European Space Agency. The problem is between 4 to 6. In these cases, normally you have to raise funds from a private investor, and a recommendation could be to look forward for a corporate venture capital program. Normally there are some corporates as Airbus, Aerospace, and something like that that could be interested to fund these companies from TRL 4 up to TRL 6. Even they can sign some letter of intent or to buy your product or services if you get the final phase.
Yeah. All right.
In Spain, Roberto, I think that you know this company is called PLD. I don't know if you know this company that is specialized in space satellites, and they are being really successful in in financing their growth with these corporate venture agents that Roberto was addressing. And
but I was actually more interested in companies who are in the downstream space sector, like working with Earth observation data, like I think most of the participants in the PARSEC Accelerator. Because of course, for the upstream space, you indeed have a lot of, if you need to develop a satellite, you need a lot of capital to develop the hardware. But do the same logics also apply to downstream space companies?
Okay, I don't know. Maybe we could find some examples. If you write me after the webinar,
okay. But it doesn't have to be. I was just out of interest. I was asking, so don't want to put you on the stand here.
Okay, well, we are happy to answer all your questions. So no problem.
Okay, thank you very much, Benoit, for your question, and then we'll have a follow-up to that. And as we have only a few minutes left, I think if you have any last-minute questions, feel free to maybe just raise your hand or let us know that you want to say something, and otherwise we will start wrapping up. You still, of course, have a second to think about it and think about your questions. And in the meantime, I will start thanking to our speakers. And thank you, Roberto, representing today FORCIS Consulting, and Fernando from Ética. Thank you very much for being with us. And of course, we will share your contact details with our beneficiaries. And today I would like us, as I mentioned, it was the first webinar we had since the summer break. I would like just to let you know that there is more coming, that as we did previously in PARSEC, we'll be having some webinars, meetings. We will focus mostly in the following months on the export promotion. Hence, we'll also be involved in a few matchmaking events, but also we will be seeking for new opportunities, focusing on the investment, seeking for new fundings and capital as the meeting today. Of course, feel free to still join our business catalysts and share with us your success stories, because we know that you already have some. And to share with you some more opportunities for the upcoming months and for the future, I would like to give the floor just for a few minutes to Mariola from AVAESEN, who will introduce you to a new interesting opportunity for you.
Okay, thank you very much, Veronica. Hello, everybody. I'm Mariola Guarinos, a project manager of AVAESEN, and I work promoting the innovation in the clean sector, in the clean tech sector. So this morning I have been problems with the internet. So if you want, I can turn on turn off my camera and show you my presentation. Okay. Okay, let's go. Well, can you see?
Yes, it's not full screen, but we can see your PowerPoint.
Yeah, no, because I no, sorry, my mistake. Okay, fine.
Now we can see it.
So I know that most of you, well, some of you knows who is AVAESEN, but for who don't know, and AVAESEN is the private non-profit energy association of the Valencian region, clean tech cluster, catering more than 160 clean tech related companies of Valencia region, representing the nexus between governments, research, innovation, finance, and market. AVAESEN covers more than 6,000 of professional employees, which is almost the 80% of the business sector. And taking advantage of 15 years experience, a cluster offers tailor-made services solutions based on joint plans with the mission of boost competitiveness, innovation, and growth. The cluster offers different services such as action plans for business growth, business observatory, landing pad services for SMEs, knowledge transferring workshops and seminars, and well, AVAESEN experience and interest are mainly oriented to on clean technologies, renewable energy generation, energy efficiency, water and waste treatment, smart cities, smart production, and smart production in industrial sector, and smart grids. So among these years, we have helped more than 100 SMEs to global business ecosystem, and we have accelerated 275 startups to market in Spain and other 12 companies. So AVAESEN wants to help its partners to create business visibility and innovation, and is provided through the support of entrepreneurship in the Innovators Hub that connects startups, companies, institutions, and universities. We currently coordinate more than with Climate Kick, the Climate Launchpad, which is the largest green business idea competition in the European sector, and always the ESP for energy and water, which was awarded as the best European strategy cluster partnership. So, but what you want to know is the new opportunity. So right now we have a new opportunity on board called Clean Connect VLC. And AVAESEN is collaborating with Valencia City Hall and Valencia Activa, which Teresa is right now here as well. And the aim of the program is to find solutions to the challenge that 4 or 5 corporates are facing daily, with the purpose of funding an innovative solution in which technology will have a differentiating character. Some examples of these challenges are, for example, portable wind turbines from Grupo ETRA, a solution to reduce the water consumption, which is from Hidraqua, and as well, for example, to improve the circular economy, or solutions to the digitalization of the energy sector proposed by EFAS Energy and Jimeno and Grupo Zaragoza groups. So these 5 startups will be hosted by these 5 corporates, and will have the opportunity to show their product, have meeting, and visit their facilities. And in addition, these startups will have the opportunities to access to investment in free investor events that we are organizing together with Valencia Activa. And the program will end in a big event in the 24th of November with the free attendance to the 2nd Global Startup Cities in Malaga, with a showing case of success. So the applications will end on 17 September. So as soon as possible, I encourage you to register in the program, and you can access in the Green Innovators website, as you can see in the presentations. So this was very quick, but if you have any doubts, here's my email. Anyways, we are here to respond everything. So just send the questions.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Mariola. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to ask now, as we have still our speakers there. And if not, of course, feel free to use the emails mentioned in the presentation. And of course, if you don't remember them, they will be on the recording. If not, you can always get in touch with us, with PARSEC, and we will direct you to the right speaker and the right initiative. So no worry about that. Okay, I think no new questions appeared, and we finished our time for today. So thank you very much for joining us for the first time after the summer. Thank you very much, Roberto and Fernando, for joining us today, and thank you, AVAESEN. Thank you, Salome, for supporting the action, and we hope to see you at the upcoming webinars.
Thank you to all of you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.